Hey everybody, and welcome to The Breakthrough Effect. I'm your host, Jared Sebesta. I've had two successful careers. First, I was an award-winning TV meteorologist and then a financial marketing strategist. I was living the dream, making good money, but inside I was craving for something more, something bigger. So I stopped deferring life and I started creating exactly the life I was searching for. I doubled down on unlearning old mindsets and creating big breakthroughs for me and my family. And now I'm bringing that same transformation to you. Let's understand the rules of this game. Let's get clarity. Let's stop chasing and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect.
Being able to persevere for long periods of time doing unpleasant things is a far better predictor of eventual business success than genius. If you can eat uncertainty for breakfast, you've at least got a shot. If you're extremely smart but don't enjoy stress, you'll be financially and emotionally better off getting a high-paying job. So entrepreneurship is not a fit for the vast majority of people. You have to be a little crazy to even try. And I don't mean that in like a humble brag way. I mean it quite literally. Entrepreneurs probably have deep psychological issues that attract them to chaos. If that's not you, don't start a company.
All right, today on The Breakthrough Effect, I'm talking with Tim Chermak, a college dropout who became a self-taught marketer and scaled platform marketing to over $300,000 in monthly revenue serving real estate agents across the country. But here's what makes Tim different. He didn't just build a successful business, he obsessed with the philosophy behind it. He's building companies based on radical ideas about American values, economic liberty, and entrepreneurship, including his latest venture, John Galt Mortgage. Get ready for a breakthrough conversation about building companies around exclusivity and excellence and how you can do the same. Please welcome to the show, Tim Chermak. Tim, thanks for joining me today.
Hey man, I'm excited. This will be fun.
I'm a fan. There's a special connection between my story and you, which if you've read my book, you know about, and I will bring that up at some point throughout the interview here today. But excited to talk with you. Again, I'm a fan of you personally and of the companies you built. And so let's get started. From a business perspective, in your opinion, what makes you successful at what you do?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think with how we've built platform, and that's our main core business right now. It's a marketing agency that serves real estate agents. So all of our clients across the country are realtors. I think it's that we designed the business model itself to be different, because I've never been particularly interested in waking up every morning and going to do war in an industry that's just like a red ocean, right? Where you're all doing the same thing, fighting over the same customers. You know, in our industry, marketing for, in a real estate, there's a ton of companies out there, Boomtown, Ylopo, Sync. I could rattle off half a dozen others. Most people probably have no idea what those companies are, but there's a bunch of marketing programs in the industry that work with realtors, and they all offer variations of a website, a CRM. They sprinkle in some pay-per-click advertising, Facebook ads. They all more or less do the same thing. We decided early on, well, I don't really want to compete with them by offering all the same things and just arguing that ours is slightly better, So we don't offer websites. We don't offer a proprietary CRM. We decided we're just going to be a pure marketing agency where we come up with creative ads and we're going to plant our flag there, that we're not just going to be exactly like every other company in our industry. We're actually going to be like different. So in our marketing, we'll even use that phrase. Here's 5 ways we're different from other companies. Not necessarily better, but here's 5 ways that we're different. Because I think as a consumer, when you see that a company's kind of being like transparent and honest, that, hey, I'm not going to lie to you and assume you're dumb and be like, oh, here's 12 reasons we're better than other companies. It's like, well, everyone's going to say that. But here's 5 reasons we are legitimately different. I think using that word different kind of taps into a different part of people's brains, right? And then they read or they process what you're saying very differently, because it's like, okay, they're not just like lying to me or looking me in the eye and saying, oh, my company or my product, my service is so much better, when it's totally subjective, right? But I can honestly say, here's all the ways that we are different. So we've structured platform that way to where it's just different, and it doesn't mean that everyone's for us. It means a lot of potential clients find out what we do and they're like, oh, that's not really for me, right? That's fine, because it means the clients in our industry that are a fit for what we do absolutely love us, because we are set apart from other companies in how we do things. We also work with like one client per geographic market area, which no other companies in our industry do that. Because if you're a marketing program, right, and there's however many, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of realtors in the United States, right, you would never want to restrict yourself by putting a cap on the number of people that can sign up for your product or service, right? It's not like when Apple makes the iPhone and they roll a new one out every year that they're like, hey, we're only going to make 10,000 of these, and as soon as the 10,000th one sells, well, then we're out or something. Or, hey, only one person per zip code can buy the new iPhone, so once someone in your zip code buys one, there won't be any more sold, right? That would create a lot of, it would create a rush and a demand for the iPhone, but it would also really, really restrict the potential growth in sales of Apple selling iPhones if they put like an artificial cap on the number of, phones they're selling. We have voluntarily done that for our marketing program. And so we've said, hey, we only work with one real estate agent per market area. And every market's a little bit different, but it's usually like we draw a circle on a map of where could you as a realtor realistically drive in about 20 to 30 minutes. And that's your exclusive territory. Because if you're a real estate agent, you don't want to be picking up listings or buyers that are an hour away, because that's inconvenient for you. So realistically, you get your own exclusive 20 to 30 minute map of where we're not going to work with anyone there but you. Philosophically, we do this because I'm like, well, if I'm a marketing company and my goal is positioning you as being the best realtor to work with in such and such a community, I can't really ethically look you in the eye and be like, my goal as your marketing agency is to help you blow up your business and become the best known, most trusted realtor in this community. And then I'm secretly saying the same thing to some other agent who's like half a mile away from you, right? That just to me always kind of felt yucky. But that's what every other company in the industry does, is they have no exclusivity. It's like, hey, if you sign up for our website marketing social CRM program and your competition signs up 30 seconds later, that's fine. Like they might have 200 people in your county using your service. And to me, it's like, well, okay, I don't think there's anything necessarily unethical about that, but it's not marketing. Because like marketing is about giving the public a specific reason to choose you and not your competition. And at that point, it is kind of a zero-sum game. Like if I'm the ad executive working at the ad agency, let's say, that gets hired by Pepsi, like I'm not also secretly working with Coke behind the scenes and just hoping the Pepsi executives don't find out, right? Like the moment that you accept that contract to work with Pepsi, it's like, okay, well, we're going to drop all of our other soda contracts if we had any, because Pepsi is now our client, right? And we've just done that differently from every other company in our industry. To me, honestly, it's just like common sense, Jared. It's like, well, if I'm going to work with these realtors, it's going to be in an exclusive area, and we're going to honor those agreements. But it's really helped us build a niche in our industry because no one else does this. And our clients, I mean, we have people that have stayed with us even though we don't have contracts locking them in. We have people who have been with us for 7, 8, 9, even 10 years, because part of it is like, they're like, well, if I ever leaves, my competition will take my area, and then they'll use this platform marketing strategy against me.
Sure.
Because they only work with one person per market. So yeah. We've just been able to, I guess, to answer your question, we've designed a business model that works well for us, because we have no aspirations of becoming like a publicly traded billion-dollar company or something. But by designing the business this way to where we're kind of like a category of one, when like this happens every month, someone asks us, hey, I tried to inquire about platform marketing. I wanted to sign up. I was listening to your podcasts, or I saw your case studies and your testimonials, or like your Google reviews from really happy clients. This sounds amazing. I tried to sign up, but then I found out that my market's not available because you're already working with a client in my area. And then they'll ask us, can you recommend even just like one or two similar agencies or similar marketing programs out there that I could sign up with, even if they're not as good as you, but that are similar to what you do? And my answer every time is like, no, I can't, because honestly, there is not other marketing agencies out there that honestly do it the way that we do it. I can give you some of our competition with air quotes, but like in no way are they actually doing similar things to what we do. So I think that if I could boil down any business success I may or may not have had, it's that we've intentionally designed business models to where our brand and just how we do things is like very noticeably different than how our competition does it. And if you're in an industry where everyone's doing things the same way, you don't even have to be better. You just have to be different.
You're 100% right, and I think that's marketing genius. I when I see you and think about you and how I know you, you're a really gritty entrepreneur, but like you understand the psychological aspect of marketing, business, how people think. And it's just a great concoction of skill sets to be able to build a business off of. I've got to ask you this. I have shared this on this show, dude. Like recently, I shared your quote on this show, and I've shared it with other people. When you were awarded the Inc. 5000 award or recognition, trophy or whatever you want to call it, your commentary from receiving that recognition, it really struck a chord with me. And I'm not going to read it all because I don't have my glasses and I won't be able to see it on my little phone. But you kind of gave us, and I wouldn't say a snarky remark, but you gave a very pointed remark about entrepreneurship, business, what to expect if you're going into this type of thing, and who should really do this. And again, I'll really preface this, but you said basically, if you can't eat uncertainty for breakfast, if you can eat uncertainty for breakfast, you at least have a shot. You said it's not for the vast majority. You basically have to eat, SHIT, with a smile. You're going to eat it every day for probably several years and ask for seconds. And if you're not able to stand that, don't just go get a job.
Yeah, I actually have that pulled up right now. If you want me to read it in my own voice.
Well, I mean, go read. I want to hear you read it, and then I want your own review over what you said, why you said it. Were you being a smart aleck, or were you being serious, or did that come from a place of like, you know what I mean? Like there was an edge to that, and I would love to hear your opinion on that.
So, okay, we made the Inc. 5000 list this year, which is, Inc. magazine publishes an annual list of the 5,000 fastest growing private companies in America. Because obviously,
congratulations, by the way, that's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, most of the news talks about public companies, like publicly traded companies, like whatever, Nike, Amazon, Ford, whatever. Inc. keeps this list of who are the 5,000 fastest growing small businesses in the United States, and they really put you through the ringer to qualify. You have to send in your tax returns and audited financial statements by a CPA to prove. So it's like anyone who made that list legitimately has a strong business, because they really test and make sure that you're not sending in fake documents to make the list. So we were really excited that we made the list, because obviously if you make this list, you're part of a very small percentage of companies in the US. So I just posted a picture of the trophy we got on Facebook, and I just added some commentary of looking back at the last 10 plus years we've run this business, kind of what it means to me over a decade later that we got this trophy. So I just said, most people grossly overestimate, not under. Most people grossly overestimate the amount of skill and underestimate the amount of stubbornness it takes to be an entrepreneur. Business is more about perseverance than it is intelligence. Your ability to eat shit with a smile on your face and then ask for seconds is far more important than your technical skill set. Being able to persevere for long periods of time doing unpleasant things is a far better predictor of eventual business success than genius. If you can eat uncertainty for breakfast, you've at least got a shot. If you're extremely smart but don't enjoy stress, you'll be financially and emotionally better off getting a high-paying job somewhere. Entrepreneurship is not a fit for the vast majority of people. You have to be a little crazy to even try. And I don't mean that in a humble brag way. I mean it quite literally. Entrepreneurs probably have deep psychological issues that attract them to chaos. If that's not you, don't start a company. And I think I wrote that. Because, often we have this kind of entrepreneurial hustle porn culture right now about work hard and grind and hustle. And what goes missing in all that is that, yeah, you should work hard. That's probably a virtue that's true whether you're an employee somewhere or self-employed, right? But the vast majority of people should actually not be entrepreneurs. They don't have what it takes to be up late on a Sunday night stressing, oh my God, how are we going to make payroll this week? We don't have enough money in the checking account to make, or how are we going to pay our vendors because we currently don't have the money, where it's like this month's income is paying last month's bills. And if anyone is late on payments, then someone's not getting paid, right? Most people just don't have, I think, the tolerance for stress and the tolerance for uncertainty and ambiguity that it requires to be an entrepreneur. Because at no point of being a small business owner or an entrepreneur do you ever like reach the top of the mountain where it's like, oh, cool, now it's easy. It's like, no. When you succeed and grow your business, now you just have even more complex problems and more stress, because trust me, having a team with 50 people is more stressful than a team with 5 people. And eventually, if we ever get to having 500 people, I'm sure that'll be a lot more stressful than what we currently have right now, which is like 50-ish people. So I think if you've never started a business or managed a business, owned a business, it's hard to put into words how stressful that can be. So I guess why I wrote that is like, yeah, I'm stoked that we did this, but I also want to scare people away from pursuing entrepreneurship if you've only ever seen the Shark Tank version where it's like, oh, it's cool, it's glamorous, everyone loves you, your fans will adore you, you'll get all this praise on social media for, like, have you ever seen someone on Facebook post, and I'm not meaning at all to demean people who have W-2 jobs or who aren't entrepreneurs, because like I said, I think the vast majority of people should not be an entrepreneur. But have you seen, like, I don't know, a friend who posts that, oh, I got a new job, I'll be teaching 3rd grade next year at such and such elementary, and then they'll get like 500 likes on the post, and it's like, congratulations, you got a job that pays you $50,000 a year that, as long as you didn't have a felony on your record, you were probably going to get hired for that job. Like, it's not this huge accomplishment to get hired for a job somewhere, right?
Trigger warning. Keep going. I like it.
But like, right? Like, it's like, oh, I got this job somewhere that like is objectively right. Not a big accomplishment. And you can kind of tell I'm not a huge fan of everyone gets a trophy, because even high school graduation, I'm like, yeah, cool. If you're a first generation immigrant and your parents didn't speak English, then by all means, you graduating high school is an achievement. But why do we celebrate kids graduating high school now? It basically just means you're not an absolute moron. Like there are people who literally can graduate high school and not even speak English. They're still handing out diplomas to those people. So I just look at so many posts on social media, Jared, where it's like, again, I'm excited to announce I got a job and I'll be teaching 3rd grade at such and such school, and they'll get 500 likes on it. Someone will open a business and risk a bunch of capital opening a business, and no one cares, because like culturally, we just don't necessarily value things equally. And if you're the type, like here's where I'm going with all this. If you are the type of person who needs that external validation of like, oh man, it would have been really nice if when I opened my business, I got 500 people to like my Facebook post or, whatever, like, you're not going to make it. It is very, very lonely being an entrepreneur, because very few people you ever talk to will be able to talk to you as a peer. It's almost like I have never been in the military, so I'm not going to pretend that I know what it's like to be in combat or be in the military. Hopefully I never have to, because if Tim Chermak is in the military, things have gone very downhill in this country very fast. But I imagine that's what it's like for like a soldier who, fought in Iraq or Afghanistan or in World War II, if they went over to Germany or Japan or something, and then they come back and people are asking them like, oh, what was it like? It's like, if you weren't literally there and bullets were flying by your face and your buddy got his leg blown off in front of you, or grenades are exploding all around you, whatever, you can't even have a conversation with someone about what it was like.
Yeah.
Because you can't describe it in words. Like, you just can't, at some sort of deep, fundamental, primal level, you can't relate to people who haven't experienced what you have experienced. And in no way am I comparing entrepreneurship to, being in combat.
Understand. Yeah.
But it's kind of that same dynamic where it's like, if you're an entrepreneur, it's hard to talk about some of the things we have to deal with people who have only ever signed the back of a paycheck and not the front. Right. And so if you need that validation, I'd be like, just don't be an entrepreneur.
I resonate with that so much. I have, for people who know my story, I've worked, 2 10 long plus careers in kind of corporate America. And now in the last year and a half, been on my own. And, that first wave of energy that you have opening a business kind of carries you. And now I'm entering that full second year. And now it's like, it's game on, where I just today, Tim, I'm having I saw somebody at Quick Trip. We have Quick Trips here around Minnesota, and somebody's like, I see what you're doing, man. It looks like so much fun. He's like, are you having a lot of fun? And I'm like, well, I don't fun. What's fun? Let me see here. I have a lethal amount of cortisol going through my body at any given time, probably 2 nights a week. At 3:00 in the morning, I hyperventilate a little bit. My wife has to calm me down. And and to your point, they're like, their head cocks like they don't know. And again, with all due respect, I didn't. If somebody had said that to me 5 years ago, I wouldn't have understood it either. But to your point, it's like, I now understand it. And when I read your post about because that motivation will be long gone before the fear and anxiety kick in, and you've got to just plow through it each and every day, probably for a couple of years minimum. And even then, to what you're saying, it really doesn't go away. And so again, I think that this is not a warning or trying to shy people away from trying to chase after, I don't say chase, but become who they want to become. And if they want to start a business, do it. Bring your skill set to the marketplace. But also, too, fair warning, just understand what you're getting yourself into. And if you can't handle that, to your point, it might be better off just go get a high-paying job and just live stress-free.
Yeah. And if you are an entrepreneur listening to this, maybe you've never considered that hey, this is normal. Because that's the other thing, is that a lot of small business owners are constantly oh, how do I get rid of this stress, or how do I solve the psychological ups and downs? And I think you actually find a little bit of peace when you realize no, this is normal. This is this is it. Right? And again, I'm laughing because I literally had this conversation yesterday with my wife. She's a supportive spouse, and she sees me stress. I don't know what the pressure, stress, it's hard to tell where one begins, everyone picks up. She just cares about her husband. And, she's legitimately sometimes worried about my own psyche sometimes, which I appreciate. Don't get me wrong. And what I tell her is, I said, as I continue to grow in this space as owning my own business and trying to build something, not build something, but build something at a very rapid rate, this kind of is the process. Because not only am I trying to increase my income, I'm trying to learn business, and I'm also trying to unwind all the limiting BS that's been implanted in my mind for 40 some years. And here's the result. Sometimes you're up in the middle of the night, hyperventilating, wondering what the heck am I doing? And you feel trapped because it's I'm at the point of no return, because you'll hit that as an entrepreneur. It's been a long time for you. You maybe forget this, and maybe you never were really employable. But if you're going to go down this road, you will hit a point where now you're past the precipice of going back. And now you have no choice but to go forward and eat, for breakfast every single day and ask for seconds. And it's exhilarating and terrifying all at the same time. Yeah, the stress will always come from the ambiguity and the uncertainty of not knowing what's next. They've actually done studies on people that were in captivity, and I find this fascinating. That if you were kidnapped, and by the way, this is a story for another time, but my wife was kidnapped as a child. I'll have to tell you about that later.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
wow,
for multiple days. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But for people who have been kidnapped, they report the highest levels of PTSD after the experience and the highest levels of stress during the experience. Because when you're kidnapped, it's usually generally assumed that this is going to be a couple hours or potentially a couple days, but you're not actually thinking I'm going to live in captivity for years. It's either this person's going to kill me or I'm going to be rescued or I'll escape. But there's not really any scenario when you get kidnapped where you're thinking I'll be a hostage for years, right? So it's that ambiguity of not knowing what's going to happen that creates the highest levels of stress in people under captivity. And it shows up in long-term PTSD. They can measure this with fMRI brain scans and whatnot. The people with the lowest level of stress and PTSD are actually long-term prisoners of war from the Viet Cong and the Vietnam War, or even people in World War II in a Nazi prison camp.
Really?
Because once you got dropped off at the prisoner camp, whether it was in Vietnam, World War II, whatever, it was kind of clear to you that oh, I'm going to be a prisoner of war for the next several years, and this is just my reality. There's not really any uncertainty of I'm not getting out of here. I'm in a foreign country, right? I'm just going to be here for a while. So the lower the level of uncertainty, the less stressful it is, right? What causes some people to pursue entrepreneurship and other people, to pursue a normal career is whether or not you can handle or thrive under uncertainty versus if you prefer more, default state of affairs. There's this Tim Ferriss quote I love where, given the choice, most people prefer unhappiness to uncertainty. Like they would rather be permanently unhappy as long as they know the level of unhappiness they're going to get than have uncertainty. And so entrepreneurship is just looking at like, hey, I have certainty that I'm going to be uncertain for the rest of my life. And if you're someone who can psychologically deal with that, then occasionally you might even have fun and make some money. But if not, then 99% of the population should have a job somewhere, because that's honestly a way better deal than trying to build something and having the risk of all that. I for sure didn't make any money for the first 5 years. I didn't pay myself a paycheck until I'd been running my company for 5 years.
I wanted to ask you that because I ask a lot of people who have successful businesses, and I say, when did the lethal amounts of cortisol stop flowing through your body? And they either say that it still is to some extent, but they always say it right around year 3 to 5. Would you confirm that with your business and other businesses you've seen?
That's probably anecdotally true, and there's a little bit of a survivorship bias there too, in that if a ton of people quit in the first 6 months or a year, it doesn't mean that if you make it to year 3 or 4 or 5, it'll automatically get better. But of the people who do make it, I'd say somewhere in there. The problems never go away. You just have different problems. I mean, our business now is comfortable. We have 25, 30% profit margins. I can pay myself a 6-figure salary on top of the profit margins. We have some cash stored away to where if a bunch of clients quit, it's not like we wouldn't make payroll, next month. But at the end of the day, I'm still like, oh my gosh, if some crazy event happened in the economy that caused a bunch of clients to quit, our payroll every month, dude, is like over $100,000. So it's like there's a lot of people's families that are depending on me to, for their paycheck. And if we had a bunch of people quit, it only takes 1 month of having a bunch of people quit to where all of a sudden all that profit, goes away. So I actually have the mentality, and that I go against everyone in our industry. Every mastermind group or coaching group I've ever been in is like, set aside 6 months of expenses in your business. And I'm like, why the hell would I ever put 6 months into expenses? Because if my business is going like this, I don't want to set fire to 6 months worth of savings just to avoid making difficult decisions. Which is to say, if the business ever starts tanking, where it's like clients are quitting, revenue's going down, we're just like, going down, you got to start laying off employees.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to just burn through 6 months of savings because like my personal savings, right? And because I want to avoid making a difficult decision of having to lay off employees. So we keep about like a month's worth of cash, not 6 months, because before we'd ever have to tap into that, I'm obviously going to be laying people off. One mental model I've used when making tough decisions, just to make me sound a little bit less like an a-hole in this interview, is that when you have to make a tough decision about money, whether it's hiring someone, firing someone, laying someone off, if you're potentially negotiating with a vendor or a client on what the contract is going to be, how much you're going to pay them, or how much you're going to get paid for something, the best mental model I've stumbled across when making tough decisions like that or navigating like a negotiation is, don't do it for yourself, because if you think that you're negotiating for yourself, you'll always get emotional, because then your self-worth comes into play about like, how dare you think I'm not worth this speaker's fee, or how dare you think our marketing package isn't worth this, or think of the people who depend on you that don't have a voice, that don't have a seat at the table, that don't have a vote. So like in your instance, think about one of your kids. Like if you're in the midst of a negotiation for someone to hire you for sales or marketing services or coaching services, and they balk at your price, think as if you're negotiating on behalf of your daughter. And it's like, hey, this is money that she needs for college, and she's not here to fight and advocate on her own behalf because she's 5 or however, right? I need to run this business in such a way that I'm honoring her and bringing in money so that I, can give that money to her for her future college or, whatever. So that's how I think about these personal stuff, right? Is if the business is growing or it's shrinking and you have to make those tough decisions as a small business owner, we don't have like stockholders in the sense that the public owns shares in my company. I'm doing this for me and my family in the same way that someone has a job is doing it for them and their, and their family. So if you think about, I guess, whether it's your husband, your wife, your kids, or if you're taking care of an elderly grandparent, or, I mean, like, in our house, Bella's mom, my mother-in-law, lives with us full time. Bella's sister, my sister-in-law, is actually paralyzed from the waist down. She lives with us full time. And so when I have made big business decisions over the years, I have like mentally imagined that family at home that I'm providing for that can't really provide for themselves. Like, that's why we have to run the business the way that we do. And you're kidding yourself if you think that your employees think any differently or that your customers think any differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I want to start to land this plane, but I just got a couple more questions here. I got to ask you on this. I've heard you talk about how conventional, wisdom would say, save for retirement, through your 20s and your 30s. You say, or at least I've heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, you should be investing in increasing your income rather than investing in retirement. Where is that inflection point where people need to make that shift? And how should people view investing in their income? Like, how do I radically invest in myself to radically increase my income? There's
a couple rules I think are really interesting when it comes to saving for retirement, personal finance, whatever. And one is just simply that if you're around age 30, plus or minus 5 years or so, around age 30, you might be 24, 29, 33, whatever, but somewhere around there. Every $1,000 that you set aside that you can save every month is going to equate to at least $1 million in retirement. That's just how the math compounds over time. It's a very clean, even round number. So if you want to retire with $3 million, you just need to be in a position where you can save $3,000 a month for the next, 30 years until you're like retirement age, right? If you want to have $10 million in the bank, you need to put yourself in a position to where you can save $10,000 a month, right? And so once you know that, it's like, well, it's kind of silly to think that someone who's, 25, 27 years old would be super concerned with saving $300 a month or $450 a month or whatever they feel like after all their expenses that they can save, because you're saving a tiny percentage of a tiny number, right? It's so much more effective to take some of that money. I'm not saying all of it, but whatever financial position you're in, take some of the money and invest back into your own earning potential. Go learn some new skills, go get a new certification, test with house money, some new skills so that you could either go to your employer and say, hey, I've learned to do a bunch of new things that can help grow this company or be valuable for this company, make this company more money. Can I get a raise of this? Here's what I'm thinking, because, I found a way that I think, let's just say brings the company an extra $1,000 a month of revenue or enhances the company's profits by $10,000 a month. Can I get a $1,500 a month raise, right? It's like you're telling your boss, you keep 85% of the benefit. Can I get 15% back in the form of a raise? Put yourself in situations where that conversation can happen, where you can like go to your boss and it's just a slam dunk to give you a raise, where it's like, well, of course we're going to give you this raise. You're adding so much more value, right? So I think for sure in your 20s and even at some point into your 30s, depending on where your income is, you should be much more concerned with how much money are you making than the amount of money that you're saving. Because like it's easier, and there's studies that prove this. Nick Maggiulli just put out a book. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he wrote a book called The Wealth Ladder, or I think it's The Wealth Ladder or The Wealth Ladder Effect, something like that. And he takes data from the Federal Reserve and shows that the number one determinant of how much money people are able to save is actually their income. It's not their savings rate. It's not whether they buy a crappy car or live in a cheap apartment or a cheap house. It's literally like if you can find out how to make $150,000 a year versus making $50,000 a year, you're going to be able to save a lot more. If you find out how to make $200,000 a year, you're going to be able to set aside a lot more than someone who makes $80,000 a year. And I know this kind of sounds like no duh, but this is not what most personal financial gurus teach. Like they're all about save 10% of your income or save 20% of your income. But it's like, you know what? It's way better to frankly save less of your income if it's of a much larger number, and you won't hate yourself along the way. You can live a little bit better of a life.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm an old Dave Ramsey protege, so I was like, I'm going to play defense into financial wellness. Sure. And it does work to a certain point. And now since I've owned my own business, I'm pouring pretty much everything back into growing my income. And guess what? It works. It works. And to your point, you get faster. you get farther faster, in my opinion. And that's been kind of a shift in my own mindset. And I went to Chipotle like 2 weeks ago, and it was $25 to get a burrito and a drink. And I'm like, dude, you can't save your way into spending $25 on a burrito. Like you gotta play more offense. Defense is cool, but you got to play in today's world. You got to be playing offense to win. You really do. So I think that's a really good word. Dude, I have to bring this up, and I want this story to lead into my final question for you. But this is a true story, and I mentioned in chapter 1 of my book. I had literally my flagpole moment, January the 1st, 2022. I was 43 years old, probably going through a midlife crisis, and I was like, I'm so done playing defense. I want to start creating more opportunities in my life. I didn't know how to articulate that at the time. I'm literally on a walk not far from my house, and I said to my wife, I have to reach out to somebody who thinks differently. And there's one guy that's accessible that I might be able to get on the phone. His name is Tim Chermak. And I reached out to you. You called, and we talked the next day. We talked for like 2 hours. You recommended a number of books. But what you did for me is you allowed me to start a journey of unwinding some of these lies that I lived in. And I'm a different person because of that. So I want to personally thank you on my show for allowing, giving me your time a couple of years ago to have that. What is the number one lie that you see the realtors you work with, or what you've seen over the years that prevent them from breaking through their next level, not only in their business, but also their life?
In business, I think it's probably that they're unwilling to take the risk that is kind of just like table stakes if you want to play at certain levels of business, and they have an employee mindset, but they're pretending to be an entrepreneur. So like, just to give a specific example of what I mean by that, it's like we have some real estate agents that we might work with that are making like a healthy income. They're making, let's say, $150,000 a year. And a lot of Americans would kill to make $150,000 a year, right? But they're like, hey, I see some people, in your platform marketing program that are making $500,000 a year. And I want to go from $150,000 to $500,000 a year. And part of it is like, oh, cool. Well, those people are spending more on their ads. Not that simple. Like, oh, just spend more and you'll automatically make more. But that's a huge part of it, is like, if you currently are spending, $900 a month on your monthly advertising as a realtor, it's going to be really hard for $900 a month in advertising to create $500,000 a year in income, because if it were that easy, everyone would do it, right? If all you had to do was charge $900 to your credit card every month and you were just basically guaranteed to make $40,000 a month, like that'd be a pretty good ROI, and everyone would do it, right? So like part of it's like, well, those people are often spending like $2,700 a month on their ads, triple what you're spending. And that's still a phenomenal return on investment, right? Spending $2,700, let's say, to make $500,000 a year. That's a good ROI, right? But they don't want to do that because they're like, well, money's kind of tight right now, or I don't know if I can afford that. It's like, well, you are never going to make $40,000 plus a month, because if you multiply $40,000 a month by 12, that's about $500,000 a year. You're never going to bring in $40,000 if $2,700 mentally feels like too big of a number to you, right? Like, this is just simple emotional reality that if $2,700 or $3,000 a month, whatever, is an intimidating number to you, you're not ready to get out of the little kid sandbox and play at the big boy table with people that are making $40,000 a month. And you can scale those numbers to whatever level of business you're at. For us, we're looking at acquiring some companies, and I've had to level up that, in the last couple of years, if I need to stop being afraid of like, hey, we might buy a company and it's $1 million and the monthly payment on getting a business loan to buy that company is this, and the income's going to be this. And it's like, well, the Tim of 5 or 10 years ago would have been scared by those numbers.
Yes.
But now it's like, well, if you're not comfortable talking with these numbers, you're just not emotionally ready to make that level of money, because you can't be scared of the risks and expenses. So I think, to answer your question, there's a lot of people that say they want to make whatever, $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year, but they're not even willing to risk like $5,000 once or $10,000 once. I mean, there's a business we just started here a couple years ago that I'm currently pumping $25,000, actually $30,000 a month into, because we think it can work, and it's currently not working right now.
Right.
$30,000 a month, right? So using my $1,000 a month rule from earlier, the fact that I'm pumping $30,000 a month into this business that's currently not really working means if I put that same amount of money into just retirement, I'd have $30 million in retirement, right? So like you kind of have to have a really weird risk cost benefit risk calculus if you're an entrepreneur, because most people would absolutely not be willing to take a risk like that. So that's probably the advice of why most people aren't going to get the results that they want to get, is that like deep down they're not willing to take the risk or do what's required to get a result like that. It's actually that simple.
I'll do a quick summary, and I want one final word from you, and then we'll wrap this up. What I hear you saying is that if you want to step into this game, buckle up. And the process of eating you know what for breakfast every single day and literally embracing the uncertainty and willing to take it not for a year but for years is part of the process. One thing we did not mention, but I'm gonna add this. That actually is the process of becoming the person necessary to actually do and receive what is actually coming. Because you said something really interesting. You said that the Tim of 5 years wouldn't do that. And I say that all the time. The Jared last year wouldn't be making the same decisions. He'd be way too afraid to make this decision. And that is actually the process of actually, I don't know, there's something internally that's shifting and unwinding from your mind to be able to handle that type of decision and or fear and or uncertainty. And to your point, and I think this is a great way to kind of end this, the breakthrough is in the becoming, but you have to go through the fire. You have to shift something internally to be able to handle that type of fear and uncertainty, and also see and believe something, because logically what you just said, pumping 30 grand a month into a business that isn't working is illogical. Frankly, it's stupid. But when you see it from your perspective, you see something other people don't see. And that's how people get breakthrough. That's how I've gotten it. And again, I want to thank you for starting that process with me, because I'm a totally different person than I was 3.5 years ago when we first chatted. And I really think that is what we're talking about. That is this life of business and entrepreneurship and really expanding into something really powerful. Final words.
I've probably sounded overwhelmingly negative in this conversation about business is hard, don't do it, it's super stressful, you should run for the exits, right? But I love what I get to do. I genuinely think if you were to ask me on any given day, what's your level of happiness, 1 to 10? It's like, well, if it's a Saturday and I'm not thinking about work and I'm at the playground with my daughter Rose and I'm just literally just living my best life, if that's a 10, even during the weekday, I'm probably an 8.5 or a 9. Like, I think I genuinely am actually a very happy person because I love what I do. And I love being a business owner. I love being an entrepreneur. I love starting every week with like no one telling me what to do. I get to work on what I think is going to move the needle in our business the most. I don't have to fill out reports or summaries of what I've been doing. I don't have to attend mid-level management meetings. I don't have reviews from my superiors that don't even know what I do on a day-to-day basis. I love just the autonomy and freedom of being an entrepreneur. Like, I love it. And you probably do too, right? So if you don't inherently enjoy the game of business, I guess what I would leave you with is like, you're never going to make it, because this is hard enough and stressful enough to where if you don't derive some sort of inherent enjoyment out of just playing the game of business, the way that some people derive inherent enjoyment from playing the game of basketball or playing the game of football, right? It doesn't matter if you go to the Y or go to Lifetime Fitness or something and you play a pickup game of basketball and you lose, because like the fun is in playing the game, right? Business is kind of like that for entrepreneurs. That's why most people who are successful say, I'm never going to retire. Like, they work well past the point that they would ever need to make a single dollar to support their own lifestyle or spending, because they actually enjoy the game of business. And like, I can say I absolutely do. If I were to ever sell any of my companies, it wouldn't be like, oh, cool, I'm going to go to the beach and sip margaritas for the rest of my life. I would immediately be thinking like, what's the next company I'm going to start, right? Because I enjoy it. It's actually like a hobby I, in some sick, twisted way, get paid to do, right? So if that's you, then you're on the right track. Because if you enjoy what you get to do, count that as a blessing if you're an entrepreneur, because I bet 90% of the world will never be able to look themselves in the eye, look themselves in a mirror and say, I get to wake up every day and actually love what I do. I can say that's true for me. I love my job. I love the company. I love the lifestyle I've created for myself. Has it been stressful? Absolutely. But I do love it. And so keep chasing that feeling if you think you want to be an entrepreneur, because like, I can tell you it somehow becomes even more stressful the more you grow, And at the same time, it becomes even more worth it the more that you grow.
Man, a masterclass in business and considering the road of entrepreneurship. Tim Chermak, thank you for joining me here today. Where can people find more about you, what you're up to, platform marketing? Let people have it.
Yep, you can look me up on Facebook. That's where I typically share my deranged thoughts, is just find Tim Chermak on Facebook. The company's platform marketing, we have John Galt Mortgage, and I'll let you guys know, I haven't publicly announced this yet, but I'm launching kind of a new personal brand project with a podcast that'll be coming out in about 6 weeks called Happy Capitalist. So you'll be able to see some new content coming out from Tim Chermak and Happy Capitalist sooner rather than later. And I'm pretty excited about that because that's kind of my passion play.
If this conversation sparks something in you, don't let it fade. Please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Don't forget to connect with me online as well. Follow me at Jared Sebesta on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or dive deeper at my website, jaredsebesta.com, where all my free trainings and resources are waiting for you. And remember, stop chasing the life you want and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect. We'll see you next time.